Hello and welcome to the Madecast, the official podcast of the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, a series of lectures on video game history as part of the Made's ongoing effort to preserve history through teaching and displaying playable exhibits of rare games and consoles.
While life in the time of COVID has forced us to close our doors, the support of people like you has allowed us to continue to bring history to you through lectures and interviews like the one you hear in a few minutes. I'm Chun.
I'm Red.
And I'm Miles. Today, Alex sits down with Crispin and Mark Macdonald, veterans of Electronic Gaming Monthly, to talk about games journalism, the days of IRC, and their memories of EGM.
I'm very excited to have them on. It's going to be nice to get a little touch of old school video game news.
No, this is a fun talk.
Yes, but as far as news goes, Chun, do you want to break the news about your favorite game?
Of course. So, apparently, the Final Fantasy XIV digital copies is actually sold out. It's not the physical copies, but digital copies. So, literally, you can't pay for the game, and you can't create new characters in the game just because there are just too many new players for the game for the moment.
On the North American servers.
Yeah, on the North American servers. And that just actually doesn't matter much for the future because they soon will be making I think it's they call it the data server transfer service, which you can just travel to the other center. For example, if you play in a Japanese server, you can just travel to the any server for a moment and play with your friends in the other country. That's what they will be doing in the future. So in my opinion, it doesn't matter much where you register your characters in, but
not quite now.
Yep.
But it's just an interesting thing that's happening. A lot of speculation has been that it's been to keep the servers from overloading, so allowing people to keep playing. It's going to be pretty fun. We'll see how the development goes further. And then also is you found a story about Mario 3, Miles, as well?
So back in 1990, id Software, the creators of Doom and Quake and all those, amazing games, over the course of about a day, created a Mario 3 PC port to pitch Nintendo to basically allow them to port Nintendo games onto PCs. The deal fell through, it never happened. But this little tidbit of gaming history of Mario playable on PC by a legit developer was kind of buried for a while. John Romero in 2015 said that the demo still existed in some form. And very recently, it was donated to the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. So it is not currently on exhibition, but it has been preserved, essentially, for future generations to remember this little piece of history.
We may have to make a trip out to Rochester, y'all. We may have to go and grab us a couple garbage plates and play some Mario 3 on a PC.
I think Nintendo game it seems like they're never gonna push the game on PC. After so many years, they just never do that.
They're not going to, they don't need to.
Yeah.
They don't need to. I mean, I'm ecstatic that they beefed up the Switch Online compared to any other. They actually have some semblance of an online framework for people to play against each other now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say, in my Smash Bros. Online thing, the input lag is a little bit hard to get used to. It also might just be me being bad at Smash. I blocked.
I think it's actually the internet problem. I mean, they do recommend people to use Ethernet rather than Wi-Fi while playing more competitive games. Because as my experience and what I heard, the Wi-Fi in the Nintendo Switch is pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I used to have similar problems while playing Splatoon 2, and it just get too serious that I can't keep playing because I would just disconnect every match and keep losing my rate point.
But with regards to other Smash news, Smash adjacent, Nickelodeon's All-Star Brawl has been announced and will be available this fall. This is a Smash Bros.-like game featuring many classic Nickelodeon characters from Real Monsters, Ren and Stimpy, Danny Phantom, all of your favorite classic Nickelodeon characters will be able to fight. And from a teaser video, we saw what I am assuming will probably be my main, Powdered Toast Man. So it's confirmed. Powdered Toast Man's a playable character.
I'm more of a Nigel Thornberry man myself.
Anyway, that's exciting. In the meantime, I think we got to throw it over now to Crispin Boyer and Mark Macdonald so we can get some more EGM classic news and what it's like to be working for the magazine back then. This is a very interesting talk. I think everyone will enjoy this one. So here's Crispin Boyer and Mark Macdonald.
Welcome back. We're here with Crispin Boyer and Mark Macdonald. Welcome, fellas.
Hey, thank you.
Now, you two guys are alums from Electronic Gaming Monthly, and Shu was kind enough to hook us up. I appreciate him connecting you. Do you mind each telling your story in turn and how you came to EGM?
Sure. You were there first. Yeah, I was a newspaper reporter in North Carolina, and I covered county government and police and health department. And I was not thrilled with the hottest beat in North Carolina. In Lenore, North Carolina.
Was that for a newspaper, Crispin?
Yes. Yeah, it was for a newspaper called the Lenore News Topic. And
there were these things, made out of pressed trees that were called newspapers back then. Yes, they were popular.
And so I was covering health department meetings, super boring, and I was not thrilled with the job. I had to get up super early every day, like 5 a.m., because we wrote our stories in the morning. And I was always into video games. As a little kid, I used to really be into video game magazines back then. I liked Next Generation magazine, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Game Pro. And I picked up, the health department meeting was starting late. So I walked across the street to the grocery store, picked up an issue of EGM, hadn't read it in a long time, and saw an ad in the back that they were hiring. So I sent in a resume and some samples, and I got hired. And I guess the moral of that story is, I would not have gotten hired at EGM if that health department meeting had started on time. I would not have seen that they were hiring. So
Isn't it?
Yes,
Fate.
it was a nice twist of fate.
But having those clips were a big deal. I mean, that's probably what got you hired, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they were looking for someone with some journalism background and who's had passion and interest in video games. So it really did. Yeah, one thing led to the other.
You were a journalism major, right?
Yeah,
you
graduated. That's what I went to
school
for. And
which was very rare. I mean, I think now less so, but at the time was like almost unheard of. I mean, it was very rare that people had like journalism bona fides. Usually it was just, they had a fanzine or a website or something.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of the guys at EGM at the time had basically just worked there since high school. They started with like the hint line, the call-in line for video game help with like, really old school games like Adventures of Lolo and stuff. So yeah, I was like one of the college boys that they brought in. There was definitely a us versus them mentality too, with some of the old school that we all kind of went through. But
yeah. And so I was. My story is not as dramatic, but I was on a IRC, Internet Relay Chat was a thing back before whatever. But so I was on a IRC channel called Vid Games, which a lot of people now that have gone on to do a lot of much bigger and better things than I have. A lot of really influential people came out of, but it was a really hardcore video game discussion channel, really small, tight-knit group. We would meet, every once in a while at like E3 or something, but mostly it was just on the internet. And I got to know a couple guys, Craig Kuyava and John Ricciardi, both of which who also worked for EGM at different times, and was doing some freelance stuff while I was still going to school and college. I did like some strategy guides back, when you used to have to buy a book at a bookstore to learn how to, finish the last boss of Beyond and Beyond or whatever.
And that company was based in Hawaii, wasn't it?
So one of the ones that I did was Sandwich Islands Publishing, and they were based on Maui, which is where we're at right now, by the way. But
and I'm very jealous.
Yeah. So I did the strategy guide stuff. I did some freelance reviews and articles, and then when I graduated school, I was lucky enough to get an offer. I'd had an offer before that to go to another magazine, Game Fan, actually, which I was a big fan of. I had grown up with these magazines too. I mean, this was a dream come true to me. I didn't even really entertain the idea that this was a possible thing. It was like, do you want to be a movie star or an astronaut when you grow up? It's like, I mean, yeah, of course I want to be a video game. Somebody writes about video games for a living. Nobody does that for real, right? And so I always had that attitude, and really it was, I had done a lot of work. I had my own website for a brief period focusing on Japanese games, and, had met a lot of people, but a lot of it was luck. And so through those guys, through those connections, they both worked at, Zip Davis, who was the publisher of EGM. And, I started work for Official PlayStation Magazine, OPM, which came with the disc, back when the demos came on discs. And then after about a year and a half of that or so, there was kind of an exodus from EGM. A lot of people went to some online sites, and then that's when I moved over to EGM.
So you mentioned IRC. Was that FNet?
That was FNet. Yeah. Are you
cool.
an old IRC?
Yeah, I'm ashamed to say I've been on IRC for way too long.
No, I mean, you're not still on IRC, are you?
Yeah.
Oh my God! All right, yeah, you should be ashamed of that. No, I'm just excited that it still exists and is going. I mean, that was huge at the time. It was, the place where you could go to real-time chat about video games back when it was not easy to come by quick news about video games, especially out of Japan. It was, you'd read stuff in a magazine 2-3 months after it happens, if you were lucky to find out about it. So that was one of the things that I loved about IRC, is just it was happening, if not real time, much quicker. And people were importing all the new games, and yeah, it was a great place to be. I loved it.
Absolutely. And I think, as you say, the interesting thing about the early IRC days is that a lot of people from those channels went on to humongous things. The same thing happened in the hacker scenes. There were like Pound Hack, I believe the name of the channel, and FNet, and like half of that channel are multimillionaires now, like from security companies.
Yeah, it was just, if you were super ridiculously infatuated and passionate about video games, you kind of just like found your way there. I think another common thread that we used to talk about, thing that we noticed that I think is no longer the case, but at the time, was almost everybody in the game industry on the magazine side, but in general, who you'd meet, like worked at Babbage's or Electronics Boutique at one time or another. And it was just, how can I be close to video games? Like, how can I make money and somehow in any way, like, have it be related to video games? And yeah, I mean, no shade on that at all. I did my stint at Babbage's, and a lot of the...
I still have my Babbage's name tag. Just wear that around.
There you go.
That does go far back, because Babbage's was the first one to go. They were the first one to be subsumed by what? Electronics Boutique or
Elbow? Yeah, good old Elbow. Swallowed them.
I worked at Blockbuster, so
There you go. Okay, all right, cool. That counts. That definitely counts.
So, what kind of memories do you guys treasure from your days? I mean, there were the days of E3 being just a ridiculously sexist eras. I mean, there's sort of horrible horror stories everybody can tell, but there's also, crazy party events. There's Shu talked about people leaking from the publisher's building, like where they were actually printing the magazine, leaking shots of it. I mean, I don't know where we could even begin here, but do you guys have any particular memories that stick out of your time?
Well, whenever Mark started, it was... And Mark started like a year after me, I think. It was definitely a very tight-knit group and pretty intense workload, and that it was really came down to, that was before we even started relying too much on freelancers. It was just like, 10 people putting together a magazine, and that included like reviewing a ton of games. And, it was very much like a bonding experience. Like we were all kind of in the front lines, brainstorming. Right. We put a lot of passion into the magazine. We brainstorm we'd spend like hours coming up with a perfect caption that was kind of funny, but also, had information. And then, there was also a lot. We'd have game tournaments in the office. We had arcade machines in the office. One of my first experiences when I went there was being able to raid the gaming closet. Like I had the key. I was given the key to the gaming closet for a weekend. I think because our editor-in-chief at the time, Ed Semrad, was out of town. And that was like,
you had to be out of town for you to get the key. Yeah. Like, oh, Dad's gone this weekend. All right, party.
And the gaming closet had not just, the production copies of these games. They would have all these weird ROMs and beta versions. I think that there was a ROM for the original sequel to Star Fox was in there. And, we had the machines that could play them. So it was kind of like that first weekend, it was I was like OD'd. I don't think I slept at all. I basically OD'd on all these games and all these accessories.
The Game Informer still has their closet, and they didn't. One of the things that happened at Ziff, it's kind of a tragedy, but when we moved, I mean, it's especially a tragedy to you, Alex. When we,
I was intimately involved, actually.
What's that?
I was intimately involved. I worked for the computer recycling center that caught the second wave, but not the wave of stuff with all the games. Where did those games go?
Oh, okay. Well, so the office, anytime the office would move, you would just lose a ton of stuff, and some of it on purpose and some of it on accident. And so the office moved once while we were still in Chicago, then it moved to the Bay Area, and then it moved
50 Beale
in the Bay Area, to different buildings. And every time you would lose a lot of like good historical stuff. And apologies, you might hear some geese popping up here.
Oh, that's okay.
No, it's not Crispin if you hear that.
No, and at 50 Beale, we actually have at the museum a Japanese Saturn that is modified, and Brendan Sheffield picked it up and went, "Oh, this is modified. I can tell just by the weight of it." But it was in the Ziff Davis. It obviously came from Illinois because I never saw it when I was in the 50 Beale office at Computer Gaming World, but it came out the back, right? Like,
I also had a storage locker incident where a lot of that I had inherited a lot of the stuff.
Yes.
And I had a storage locker that famously, they changed my credit card. I missed a payment, and it sold for like $50 or something like that. And it had a radiant silver gun.
No, I remember. I found that, and I found that at the Laney. I gave you back some of those games too. I remember some of the. Yes, that was me. Yeah. Oh, good Lord. My big question was, did she give you back your personal possessions? Because that was my big concern, like your photos and things like that.
So I hope she's listening to this, because what I did, she's not, of course, at all. But what I did get back, I got back a bunch of prototypes, which I'm happy about because they're not allowed to be sold. They should have never been sold, and I never meant to sell them. And I also I did get back some personal items. But the thing that the most important thing that I was really worried about that I got back, she did make me pay, I think, $2,000 to get my personal stuff back. Yes, this is after she got it for $50, which I don't even know what it's worth, but it's an original. She talked about mono original. Chris Johnston, who was our news editor, actually at EGM at the time, while he was interviewing him, he just was painting something. And I said to him, hey, if he even sketches on a cocktail napkin or whatever, grab it for me. And he brought me back like this actual like parchment with paint on it. I got it framed. It's really nice. And she didn't realize, I think, what it was. And so when she asked for $2,000, I was like, it's worth it only if that print is in there. Can you send me a picture of it? And she sent me the picture. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it. And luckily she never caught on. So wow. Take that, storage wars lady.
And it what a horrible incident. I mean, that's just terrible that happened. But
here, it was traumatizing, but actually, Alex, the way I think about it now is I've been in Japan. That was 12 years ago, I think, maybe 13 years. And at the price that I would have been paying, and I would have never given it up, believe me, there would still be there now in Oakland or wherever it was. I would still be paying for it, and I would have paid more than it was worth by now, but only by now because there was some really great stuff in there. So,
but it was also one of the reasons that this stuff survives is because people like you actually took it from work. I mean, EGM doesn't exist. Ziff was throwing it out. I mean, after a certain point, you see they're throwing this stuff out. You got to find a home for it. I have the EGM award for GoldenEye, but like when GamePro went down, this is exactly what we did. I said, you cannot throw anything away, and we went and got it all, right? Like, but EGM, it didn't happen at EGM, and it was like a Computer Gaming World as well. And it's such a shame. A lot of these magazines went out without the stuff being saved, and yeah.
Well, so back to what EGM was like, and so it evolved even while I was there. I was there or around it for like 7 or 8 years, and and for better and for worse. But it definitely, one of the things that I remember from early on was that Microsoft had sent us a electric skateboard, which at the time, I mean, now you can't even tell if it is, but at the time it was like a freaking surfboard. It was huge and had like a lawnmower engine on the back of it, and it had like a hand controlled thing that you had to pull to go on it. And we would ride it around the office.
The thing was fast. It went from 0 to 20 miles an hour in like, they would launch you.
Wait, which office is this?
This is the Oak Brook office. So
Oak Brook, yeah.
Right next to McDonald's headquarters, ironically enough. But we would set up chairs and then lie on it like a luge and just like ram people into it. And they sent out an email saying, hey, no more writing. Guess what? This is an actual office. Like, there are people working here. It was no longer, I mean, there were cubicles and everything. It looked like just a normal office until you looked at anybody's cube and saw all the figurines. But they sent out an email, and I distinctly remember going to an Arby's over lunch and being like, "Are you just working in like a accounting firm? What is this, man?" And Shu, like, to his credit, is like, "Listen, like, let's stop ourselves here for a second. Let's think about this," because we were all kind of commiserating. And then it was like, well, hold on. If like the thing we have to complain about is we can't ride the like giant electronic skateboard through the. Also, like, somebody banged it into a wall and smashed the wall.
One of the IT guys took it out at midnight and like drove it right into the wall. There's like an area where the printer was that was walled off, like the printer area. Smashed through the wall. Then they went out. Actually, they got to Home Depot before it closed and got wall patch and patched it up. And actually managed to paint it with like a paint that almost matched, and you could see it if you looked at it.
Totally see it.
You could see the skateboard-sized hole in the wall, but the office manager never noticed it. So,
there were
the perfect crime.
Even just while we were there, though. So, and it was way. I mean, not like that was a crazy story, but it was much more Wild West than that before I got there. I know because I met the people and heard the stories, and then. While I was there, it got much more generally for the better. But, because like Crispin was saying, the week after a deadline, everyone would be so burned out. They couldn't really work or do much. And then the next week, you kind of start to get the idea together. And then you'd work your ass off the third week. And then the final week was just like you were there all the time. And it was really, fueled by people who were too young and too stupid to know any better and didn't have families or, obligations. And there were great times. There were really great times, but, it's definitely, I don't think either of us are ones to be like, no, man, you weren't there. You didn't pay your dues. Like, it got way better. We got, some people on board who had real experience running a magazine on a schedule and who wanted to go home to their wives and husbands and got organized. And even by the time I left, it was so much better in terms of deadline. Also, the magazines got way smaller.
Yeah.
They were so huge. We could still call them the phone books. Like, the new phone books are here because they were literally so thick with ads that they were like little phone books.
Yeah, they were immense.
The cover story was just too many games. Too many. It was like a ton of reviews, a ton of games to preview. And just going back when I first got there, before there was any real structure or management, it was very much like, I don't want to say
was your desk like a door on two file cabinets?
It was like a shanty town of cubicles, and it was very much like everyone staked out their area, and so I was a new guy, so I basically I built a cubicle out of a door right next to the front door of the office. So I sat there as people came in and came out, and I managed to find a TV, a tiny 14-inch TV.
You had to scrounge, rummage for your belongings.
Exactly. Basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like prison.
Oh no, we had a room at 50 Beale. It was like, you need stuff. There was just a room that could unlock, and there was TVs and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not organized in piles.
She was pretty savvy because he actually saw that someone on the publishing side was moving out, and they had a couch. Yeah, he managed to go get their couch, and he made a double-sized cubicle, and he had a little fountain in there.
We only have a minute or two left. I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about what you're doing these days and, let people know what's going on.
I'm a writer for National Geographic / Disney. I have a series called Zeus the Mighty. It's a fiction series for young readers that follows Zeus, a hamster at a pet rescue center who believes he's actually Zeus, king of the gods. And he goes on adventures every night. So it's like an epic. You're going for like a multi-part book. It's Crispin's Lord of the Rings, for young readers, basically. I got it all in the Wheel of Time. Yeah. Crispin was always by far the best writer on EGM, hands down. He was the features editor, and he was always super creative. So it's super awesome to see him stretching out into
into fiction, or is that based on a real story?
Inspired by true events. It's for
There you go.
National Geographic Kids, so it's supposed to be educational. It's edutainment.
And I work at a company called Enhance out of Japan with Mizuguchi-san, who people might know from his Sega days, Sega Rally, Space Channel 5, Res. So we did some VR optional games. We did Lumines Remastered, Res Infinite, most recently Tetris Effect. Doing different versions of Tetris Effect now. We have a game called Humanity coming out this end of this year, fall 2021. And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, I wish we had more time to talk, guys, but thank you for being here. Maybe we'll have you back again.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Our
Our
great
pleasure.
time. Thank you.
Thank you, Crispin Boyer and Mark Macdonald, for joining Alex today and talking about this marvelous piece of history with EGM and everything else. But now it's time for us to talk about what we've been playing. Hopefully, you've already created your character on the North American server and have been playing Final Fantasy XIV like Chun for a while, so you can have, enjoy your time and enjoy the expansions as you wish. I've been playing a little bit of Smash on like the spirit summoning side. It's still tedious. I'm almost there. I have about 5 more. I have like 1 more person to bring into the fold, which I'm pretty okay with. The story mode on Smash it's just tedium to me. But anything new with what y'all have been playing?
Well, I have been playing the latest game, Monster Hunter Stories 2, and I was actually just trying to play it for okay, I just gotta do this for an hour and I gotta do other stuff. I had other work to do.
Yeah, I thought you said you were going to wait on getting this.
Yeah, I picked it up on Sunday and it doesn't turns out to be on plan, and my whole day is gone, and my other day is gone either.
It happens. It's Monster Hunter, and it's a real MMO with Monster Hunter. So
it's really fun. I really want to give
RPG.
it a shout out to that. It's like it. I'm just too excited to say.
Yeah, you're just too excited. You can't make the words.
So, what I don't like about Pokemon, I gotta bring this up. What I don't like about Pokemon is when you have to hatch the eggs, you have to run a stupid amount of steps to get it done, and you don't know until the egg is hatched whether it's the right one or not. But in Monster Hunter Stories 2, you don't do that. We don't do that here. You just one click and all the eggs you got is hatched. And the way you pick which one to choose is not depends on the stat only. But I don't want to spoil too much about the games, but you should check it out. It's a less frustrating method which I hope we have in Pokemon. Another thing is the game is a half open world. So you can go over the field just by walking, riding your monster, or you can just fly a dragon. And you don't even have to finish the game in order to fly in the game. I mean, it's only in the middle of the game. No spoilers, but it just feels way too good.
Well, that's good news. I may have to pick that up.
Yeah, I would really recommend you to pick it up.
My question to you, Monster Hunter Rise or Monster Hunter Stories 2 first?
It depends what kind of players you are. What games do you like to play? Do you love turn-based RPG?
Turn-based. I haven't played a ton of turn-based recently, but I did really enjoy it. I mean, I played a lot of Final Fantasy 3 on my iPad when I came that out, so I do enjoy myself some turn-based fighting.
Then I think maybe you can pick up Rise first. It's a very good Monster Hunter game for new players. I can't say for the old players because they're maybe less challenging, but if you're new to Monster Hunter series, it's a very good first Monster Hunter game. And
I did play Monster Hunter World.
Oh, you did play Monster Hunter World, but no, it's different. So
yes.
you can't compare Monster Hunter World to any other Monster Hunter series.
Okay.
That is the difference of it. It just
okay.
They have so many changes in World that it lost a lot of the original phases of the game, which I believe old players may not like it as much. But for Rise, they're all coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that the old players will be complaining is the lack of content compared to old series, because there used to be more playtime for the game, but now it's less. But we can see there will be we can see that usually there will be an expansion to follow up the game. So we'll wait to see. But I do recommend picking it up.
Alrighty. I think it's time for us to send off. We want to thank you for listening to the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment's official podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, corrections, or general museum ideas, please shoot us an email at info@themade.org.
We'd like to send out a big thank you to everyone who donated recently and to our Patreon supporters who keep the Made afloat. Patreon donors get to listen to this podcast 1 week before it's released on major streaming services, and we'll continue that with future episodes every week. Till then, I'm Miles.
I'm Chun.
And I'm Red. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.